Welcome, ladies and gentlemen of the Buddy Fight world. It is I, Darkness Zero, here once again, here to give you a special event here today. I am here to give you not one, not two, but three Black Dragon deck profiles, all based on DBTO1 Unleash Impact Dragons. Two are English, one is Japanese. The Japanese one I've only been doing purely on online test proxy testing on, but the two English decks I brought into locals a couple of times and played with some friends. So I'm really confident how well those two decks are. The deck right in front of you is one of the English decks. This is the a. I'll explain what the deck is. This is a size 2 base Black Dragon deck, focusing on, well, I shouldn't say focusing on, but the main way this vein wins is through Negroval's burn effect and hard finisher cards like Blood Drainer, Black Sabbath, and a Vanishing Devil. But let me explain through the deck. Okay, so we're fine for DDW, obviously, and our buddy is Servant of the Wicked Lord Nightmare. He's a 2/2/2, size 1 for 1 gauge, with the ability of when he enters field, I can choose a card with the Destruction attribute from my drop zone and add to my hand. So that's a lot of spells and Negravals pretty much get added back to the hand, and himself. So he's a +1 every time you call him, and he's 2/2/2, so he's 2 crits, so he gives you the damage output you need from a size 1. Okay, then we go to 4 Void Omni Wicked Lord Negravals. He's a size 2, 6/2/3 for 1 gauge with the Omni Lord keyword, so you can play him as a 1 of in any flag that isn't DDW. But his main ability is whenever a monster on my opponent's field is destroyed by any way, then they take damage equal to the size of that card. So if I kill a size 3, they take 3 damage, size 2, 2 damage, size 1, 1 damage, etc. And this is either me destroying that monster by battle or by using counter destruction like Death Grip or just effect destruction in general. But yeah, really good card. Allows for some good burn combo plays, along with him being the destruction attribute, so Nightmare can get him back, so he can be fuel for your discard cost, along with being a 2 crit monster. Uh, we have 4 of our buddy. Then we go to 4 Scapegoat. Scapegoat's a new defensive spell from Unleash Impact Dragons. It's a common with the cast cost of you destroy one of your monsters to have the counter ability for this turn. The next time you would be dealt damage, it's reduced to 0 and you gain 1 life. So it's a chillax that you replace the cast cost of a gauge for destroying one of your monsters. This is really good for destroying monsters so you don't take penetrate, being able to open up your center for a fourth attack with your weapon. This card just one of the best defensive spells ever. Then we go to Purgatory Loophole. This is a spell with for the cast condition of your opponent needing 6 or more cards in the drop zone, and then for a gauge you can search your deck for any Black Dragon monster and add it to your hand. So this card you don't usually play on the early game because your opponent won't have 6, but on turn 2/turn 3 when they do have that 6 cards, this card's really good because it allows you to search out a combo piece along with gaining you searching your deck for monsters that you're going to need for that turn. Then we go to 3 Gallows Blood Drainer. This is a impact monster for DDW. It's a double rare 5/2/7. With the call cost of paying 2 gauge and destroying one of your monsters. He has Shadow Dive, so he can attack even if your opponent has a close center, so he's good for bypassing walls. And then when he deals damage, then you gain life equal to Blood Drainer's crit. So he's a size 2, so he really doesn't complex with any of your size formations of like having to kill off 2 monsters. You only have to kill off your size 2 with this card pretty much. And then you can plop him in the center. He's a 7k wall, so that's set like going to take a link attack along with gaining you 2 life. So he's good at pretty much blocking 2 to 3 attacks. This card just ridiculously good. Then we go 4 Death Grips. Nothing special here, just cast cost, pay a gauge, and you kill off a size 2 or less monster. Good way counter destroying a really annoying card on your opponents are like Tetsuyas, Jacks before they gain soul, etc. Just the best counter removal DDW has. Then we go to 3 Death Dragon Sickles Gale Scythes. This is a 6/2 weapon for a gauge and you pay 1 life. With the ability of if your opponent has 3 more in drop, then it's a 3 current weapon. Really good weapon, allowing you to just hit that 3 damage you're going to need to kill them. Then 3 Dark Energies. This is just a very good defensive card. So if you're to defend Negervols and a couple of other monsters in the deck, it's just a gauge. Choose one of your monsters. It doesn't get destroyed, and it gives it counterattack. Okay, then we got 2 Black-Eye Demonic Dragons block Zabath. This is an 8/8 size 3 for 2 gauge, and whenever it deals damage to your opponent has to mill the top 2 cards of their deck. And if your opponent has 10 or more in drop, he becomes 3 crit with penetrate and has double attack. This card's ridiculously good when your opponent does have that 10 in drop, but that takes a while. But him still being a good 8/8 wall is effective for that mid game turn. He's just really good at just kind of being a backup to make sure you get damage and to kill your opponent. Then we have 2 Black Wolf Olivias. This is a 2/1/1 size 0. I'm trying to remember what the ability name of it was, but pretty much whenever once per turn when your opponent's monsters are destroyed due to one of your card effects, then you may call it from drop. Then we have 4 Black Dragon Shields standard DDW nullifier. This one's really good in this format now because of impact monsters. This stops Vanishing Deathful from killing you. Give me a sec. Okay, but but yeah. Then we have 4 Black Diadems of Crowns. This is a 3/1/2 double rare size 1 with the ability of when it enters field, you gain a gauge. If your opponent has 6 or more cards in drop, you gain another gauge. So if your opponent has 6 in drop, you gain 2 gauges cards. Really good at making sure you have enough gauge for your whole plays through the whole game. And being good sack fodder. But I like this card. Then we got 4 Black Death Dragons Abigail. 6/2/1 with the cost of a gauge. With the active ability, you can discard a card from your hand to destroy a monster on your opponent's field, and if you destroy a monster, then your opponent mills the top cards of their deck equal to the size of that card. 4 Abyss Symphony, just life break 6, pay a gauge, you draw 2 cards. Good draw power to make sure you get in. And then 2 Abigail Vanishing Deathful. This is a triple rare impact from Unleash Impact Dragons. It's an 8/3/8 for 3 for that's a size 3. So you pay 3 gauge and you destroy a black dragon on your field. And when it enters the field during the final phase, you nuke all other monsters on the field but itself. Then, if there's 6 or more cards in your opponent's drop, then he gains +3 critical. And if there's 12 or more in drop, then this card's attack cannot be nullified if it's attacking alone. So if your opponent's with 12 or more in drop, they will be by turn 3 or 4, when you want to call this card as a finisher, then 6 crit they can't null. So then it becomes like certain flags just can't stop this and you win the game. Other flags can, but this card's still really good. And again, what I love about Black Dragons is how toolbox they got, along with how Purgatory Loophole makes everything searchable. So it really makes sure you don't miss a single beat. Okay, then we have the Japanese version of the deck. This has only been online, so I'm not super confident in how this one is yet, but it's still been testing really well. Nightmare's the same. Like most of this is mostly the same, so I'll go over anything different. Um, like instance, this one uses inverse second Omni Demon Lord Death Mode Eye. So 2 gauge, and if it's destroyed, you mill top three, and then you can call those monsters to separate areas without paying their call costs. This card's good to make sure you get a field. And then if you scapegoat him, then you don't take the life link and you'll gain a life. And opening up your center. 3 Graveyard Demonic Swords Greybard. When it enters the field, you destroy a monster and they take damage equal to its size, so it's good at just clearing monsters. Uh, Same Blood Drainer. 3 Death Wizard Dragons. When it enters the field, you gain 2 gauge and you take 1 damage. Pretty good. 4 Death Grips. Then 2 Dark Fogs. So this is pay a gauge counter for the turn monsters on your left and right can't be destroyed. Good at making sure your opponent doesn't clear your monsters. Then 2 Daredevil Soul Crushers. This is a 9/2/4 impact monster for 3 gauge and destroying one of your monsters. It has Shadow Dive, along with when it attacks, if your opponent has a total of 4 more monsters and spells and drop, then they take 3 damage. So this card's really good at just burning and ending the game. Then we have 3 Black Steel Dragons Gruderoys. This is a 2/2 1 size 1 that can't be called to center, has Shadow Dive, and if your opponent has 4 more in drop, then it becomes 5k with 3 crit. Really good at making sure damage output happens, and yeah, everything else is mostly the same. This just we replace Vanishing Death Hole with Soul Crusher because it's a Soul Guard monster, and it's a size 2 that deals 3 damage mostly, making sure we have a little bit more gauge excel for everything, and really good at just efficiently killing the opponent. But yeah, still probably testing a little bit more on ratios in here, but I really look confident how this deck looks, and once we do get most of these Japanese stuff, I'm potentially going to convert most of these changes into the English build. Then we have the size 3 Black Dragon deck, which is the one that's been performing, in my opinion, the greatest. So this is we changed our buddy to Black Death Dragon Abigail, because well, we officially need him as the buddy. Then we do 2 Void Slash. So this is a spell that can only be cast if your opponent has 5 or more in drop. For a gauge, you would deal them 1 damage, and if they have 10 or more in drop, you deal 3 instead. So this card's really good at just kind of finishing that game with 3 damage. Then we have 2 Twin Black Dragons Zelchondrias. This is a 2 gauge 7/5 that you pay 2 gauge and you put 2 Black Dragons from your drop into its soul. If your opponent has 5 or more in drop, he gains double attack. He's a very cheap double attacker that lets you wall for a while. For Scapegoat still, 2 Messenger of Despair Metamarias. This is a 9/4 size 3. For call cost, pay 3 gauge, and you put up to 2 of your Black Dragons from your drop into its soul. And then if it's destroyed your opponent by battle, then your opponent takes 1 damage, double attack, and soul guard. This card's just a very efficient, like, wall breaker, along with anti-wall breaking, because if your opponent does have a lot of attacks and they take damage, 2 Purgatory Loophole, etc. 4 Greybard, know what he does. 4 Gale Destructions. This is the reason we mostly play Abigail as the buddy, because we can only cast this card if our buddy has Abigail in its name. And it's a Death Grip, but with the condition that besides being a Death Grip, your opponent also mills 2. So that's important. Death Wizard's the same, Blocks the Boff the same, Olivia's a 4 of now. Then we play 3 Black Drains. This card is really good because it allows us to mill them for 3 and will gain us a gauge for our deck. So it's Gauge Excel along with setting up their drop for our size 3s. 2 Excel ends to get our Black Dragon set up. This card's potentially getting changed with a Deadly Boost or a Devil Stigma, but right now I haven't had too much of a problem with this card. 2 Vanishing Death Hole, we know what he does, and the new size 3 in this deck is 2 Abigail Storm of Darkness. So it's 2 gauge, and you destroy. No, it's Abigail Jet Black Storm. but whatever. But it's 2 gauge, you destroy one of your black dragons, size 3, and when it enters the field, it nukes all size 1 or less monsters and items on your opponent's field. So it's good at just anti-rush. Like the best thing against knights. But yeah. These are the 3 different Black Dragon decks. I really enjoyed Black Dragon this format. Uh, Up there with top 5 favorite decks. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you guys later.